Oh shit. Hold on. Mm. One moment. I know I'm a little early. I know I'm a little early. What's up, everybody? Um, I figure, I know I told everybody I'll start the show at 3 p.m., but given how, you know, OBS is, I figure I'll start prepping everything a bit early, which would allow me to do what I need to do. And I want to test something out. So excuse me real quick. I check this. Alright, hold on. Alright, there we go. There we go. Interesting. Alright. Everything's looking good. What's up, chat? What's up? Hey, how the sound go? The sound is good? You know what I'm saying? Try to keep it more professional for you guys. Because I know you guys take time. You know, and some of you may be doing stuff, and this might be something good to kill some time, whatever, you know, while you're at work, or you're at school, or you're traveling, whatever. But I just want to make sure everything's good. It's just weird how technology works. You can have the same settings, and then you use the same thing. You would think everything's going to repeat itself. And then all of a sudden, you know, I remember, I think the last podcast, a lot of people complained that the sound was off and it was real loud. I don't know if it was because I had that many people, because that was the first time I had, like, I think it was 4 or 5 people, and then including myself. So maybe it was 6. That was the first time I had 6 people in the Discord doing it. So maybe that kind of impact. So I know normally by myself the sound is good, the stream is good, but then I include a whole bunch of people, and that was the first time I did a podcast with OBS, you know, with this OBS, and in conjunction with Discord. And I know a lot of people, I know a lot of people said that some people were low, a lot of people were loud. So I'm gonna blend that in. We're gonna do another podcast this Friday. Got J-Dub, Ryan, the professional, Big Cloud Gaming is on board. Jay Barry. I'm still trying to get confirmation with Craig Harris. My man Carlos possibly will show up. Hopefully I could get all day also to come down. So we're gonna kick it off together and stuff like that. And, you know, I want to shout out the chat and everybody. Okay. But I appreciate everybody rocking out, showing up to the stream and stuff like that. This is just a quick live stuff because there's a lot to talk about, and I didn't want to do a long video. I just rather do a live and don't also do a quick Q&A. I got some private messages saying that people appreciated me doing the Q&A live. So, you know, some people really like it. So I said, well, you know, why not? Why not? I'm here to give the people what they want. If you notice, I'm rocking out that Yankee. You know what I'm saying? We won the division, the first LDS series. Now on to the American League Championships, waiting on to see who wins between Tampa Bay and Houston. I'm rooting for Tampa Bay, of course, because Houston Astros is a very powerful team and stuff. But then they also could be a curse, because if Tampa Bay wins, that means they're on a hot streak. So it is what it is, you know. But at the very least, if we face Tampa Bay, we'll have home field advantage. If we face Houston, Houston has home field advantage. But it is what it is. But I'll give a little shout out to the chat. And while you're here rocking out with me, again, of course, hit the like button. And if you don't mind, retweet it through your favorite social media platforms so we could get the conversation going. But I appreciate it. So we got a chat. We got Lay. What's up, Philip Sin? The Nail Back. Cold Blood Sensei. Thug Nasty. Oh, shit. You know what I'm saying? Wepa. What's it? Boricua? What's up? Brett Reed. My man Deep 1985 says, sup, Puertorock. My risk taking, no shame having internet associate in the chat. Savage is up in here. Saltiest Gaming. Oh, man, welcome aboard. Appreciate it. Thanks for showing up. Hope you enjoy what I'm about to do. Hope you stick by the channel and stuff like that. In fact, I'm going to DM you later on for something. Lex Perez, Conan Garcia, what's going on? Gorilla, you know, so Kairu or Kiru, all right. Updating my PS4 for remote play on my S9. That's right. Android now, you know, remote play was on iPhone. It was on Android, but you specifically was only able to use it if you had an Xperia phone. It's also on Mac OS, and now they expanded to Android. I had a couple of users telling me how great it is remoting into the PlayStation 4. One dude took a picture. He was like in a baseball game, and he was playing on his iPad and stuff like that. And now with iOS, you can link your PS4 controller. I'm assuming they did that for Android. So it's crazy. There's a lot of crazy technology out there. It's crazy how far we come and stuff like that. All right. Eddie Brock was good. Dark Link, what's up? D1981, appreciate it. Thanks for everybody letting me know about the sound. Let's see. Lock Gun was good. Jimmy T. Harris, Savage Jr. Rome Rush. My man's doing big things with his channel. Shout out to Rome. Was good. Let's see. Who else we got right here? Mac Crack Gamer streaming too. I don't know who to watch. Hey, man. Crap's trying to take me out of business. I might have to advocate for the Xbox community. They need somebody. You know what I'm saying? You know, Saltiest Gaming's taking over PlayStation. Crap's taking over PlayStation. I'm like, God damn. You know, fuck it. I'm going to convert and go to the other side. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to pull a Joker. You know, that community needs a better class of criminal. And I'm going to give it to them. You know what I'm saying? What reference is that? Everybody knows? What do you think? What reference is that? This town needs a better class of criminal. And I'm going to give it to them. Let's see if we could get that challenge. No, there's no prize for me I could give you. I'm broke. That's it. J Dog, what's up? El Matador. Hugo, what's up? Joey Salas, what up, Puertorock? Hope all's going well. Jason Shire tweeted pretty much shut down the BS speculative article from the Game Belly Diz about PS5 last week. No doubt. Raphael Christmas, what's up? Missy Boss 101. The Last of Us. Big Cloud Gaming's here. You know what I'm saying? Brian, see you Friday. Darren Slaughter. Jose Cajar was good. The General Iffy, De Lo Mio was good. You know what I'm saying? King Boo. Oh, shit. Overdone was going on. Let's see what we got here. But anyway, man, we got great people. 65 watching. Ancaster, what's up? The Finest. Ruham, my mods are up in here. Hit the like button. We got about 7 minutes to officially kick off the show and stuff like that. But we all know what we're doing here. But I'm glad the stream is working good. So my intent today is to talk about the latest news, give my opinion, not just simply regurgitate it, because I think that's kind of boring when somebody just regurgitates what you just read. You know, when I look at a YouTube personality that's reporting the news, I look at them to see if they could give me their, not so much spin, but their take, how they feel, how they like about it, not just simply reread it and then end the episode, the live stream, because you know, that sounds like an audio book then. You know, so obviously, I'm going to give you my thoughts behind the recent news. I'll cover it real quick. I'll give my thoughts about it. And then also, I want to cover and talk about this narrative that's been built over the last couple of days. I've been looking at certain podcasts, and they created this huge narrative, and I'm thinking, where the hell this narrative came from? And it's primarily Sean Layden's departure, and supposedly his departure initiated certain things. And it's confusing, and I'll explain to that, right? And then I'll open up to live Q&A for everybody to ask me questions or whatever, and I can answer back for a little bit, and then we'll cut it there, and then we'll have our big podcast. I will not have another 4-hour podcast like last week. It was incredible. It was heated. It was energetic. It was emotional. People were all in, you know what I'm saying? PlayStation Nation, it was a civil war. It was great, and I swear I did not realize how late it was, you know. But we're not doing that again, all right? And that's going to be happening this Friday, all right? Shout out to El Matador with the super chat. Thank you so much for the support. Always rocking out with the channel. He says, Sony dropping that hammer of dawn on a regular Tuesday. Yo, it's crazy. It's just crazy. And we'll touch on that right now. It's just crazy how simple tweets. Let's be honest. And not so much Sony in particular, just in general. Have y'all not noticed like simple tweets and out of the blue announcements from companies have been more effective and draw more attention than these pre-planned big shows? Am I the only one that kind of, you know, feel that way? It just seems like, you know, one day we're just on Twitter, we're just bullshitting, talking shit, PlayStation sucks, Xbox sucks, Nintendo are a bunch of pedophiles, PC are jealous of our greatness, whatever. We just out there just talking trash, right? And then our blue company be like, hey, we're doing this. And we're like, oh, snap. That's fantastic. Oh, that's great. You know, Rockstar's like, hey, we're going to throw this on PC. Oh, snap. It's on PC. We're going to do this, that. You know, it's just random news. And those news gain more traction than actual pre-planned shows that Sony did or pre-planned shows Microsoft did. You know, just anything pre-planned has been overall underwhelming over the last year, over the last 2 years. Am I bugging out, or is it me? Or maybe it's just me, but it just doesn't seem that all these pre-planned shows that companies announce have been delivering what they're supposed to do. Not state of play, not, you know, Xbox, whatever they call their shit, not E3, but just a random tweet that just comes out and be like, hey, we're doing this. Everybody gets excited, you know? And I think it's because, shout out to Ancaster, you know, with the super chat. He said, I think Sony beat Microsoft at the punch again. I believe Microsoft is going to talk about their new console at their upcoming event. Thank you for the super chat. I agree, because nothing's really a surprise among game developers and game manufacturers, you know. There's usually a sense of pulse where most of the stuff, they're all on board to provide to the industry. Take, for example, the SSD. Sony was the first one to announce, hey, we're going to have SSD technology to make games running faster. A couple of weeks later, Microsoft announced it. That's not an accident that they both are going to have it, you know? So I would imagine the third-party industry, game industry, have this vision of next gen, and they push these ideas to the first-party developers, and it's just whether they listen to not, you know? So I don't think the SSD is a Sony ingenuity, like Sony woke up, you know, the developers and whatever, or the manufacturers, you know, console electronic designers woke up one day and they instantly on their own thought about SSD. I think that's something maybe developers in the industry talked about, whether it's through GDC, dinners, privacy of their homes, you know, in the internet, wherever. They kind of all agreed, you know, it would be nice if the manufacturers would put SSD to make game development, you know, to make rendering a lot faster. And then Sony, Microsoft, and maybe even Nintendo, they see those ideas, they hear them. And now they're thinking, okay, we hear what game developers want, let's implement it in our architecture. So some things will be similar. I would imagine, you know, and we'll talk about this deeper, with the controller, Microsoft Next Gen controller may have similar features. You know, it may not be exclusive to what PlayStation is doing, you know. So we'll talk about that. Let me do a couple of things. Because, you know, a guy like me got to retweet a little something. Okay. I got another super chat. Right here for Drowned by Fire. Is all of this to combat Stadia? No, I don't think so. And you know, that's a good question. So here's my thing with Stadia. I'm gonna be honest. I honestly, and this is just me, I honestly, even from Microsoft's perspective, I don't see why everybody's giving Google such props. You know, sure, Google's doing Stadia, they're getting into gaming, but everybody's acting like, that's it, it's a wrap. The game shut down. The game industry belongs to Google. It's over. Everybody bow the hell out, bow down to Google. I don't understand how they developed such props. Like, I personally don't see it. Like, I granted, Google has the biggest search engine in the world and all that stuff, but it reminded me when Microsoft announced Windows Phone. They're like, oh, so long iPhone and Samsung. You know, Windows OS is the most popular OS, and it's over. It's a wrap. It's done. It's dead. And it's like, you know, being successful in some other areas doesn't necessarily mean you're going to dominate in the other area, right? Because Google has a lot to answer for. There's a lot of shit Google's got to do. It's not just simply you can stream third-party games, we're the kings. Like, who gives a shit? Like, okay, so Google has a streaming service. You can play NBA 2K. So the hell on. Like, you can play 2K anywhere else. You know what I'm saying? Like, just saying because they're acting like Google is a threat. Don't agree. Thank you for the super chat, gang. Great questions. Tron by Fire, you are asking outstanding questions. But here's the thing. Does Sony see Google as a threat? Because it's like this. All streaming services are limited markets. Everybody thinks that these streaming services is all around the world. No. Because remember, the streaming services is bound by the infrastructure and the architecture of that surrounding areas. So even, let's say, like in America, right? In America, right? We'll take America, right? Even Microsoft themselves stated, you know, because Microsoft's backbone servers is all across, so they ping everything. They said 56% of the people who use internet. So all the internet users in the US, 56%, more than half, are not on broadband. So more than half of internet users cannot use streaming services for gaming because it's too intensive. They don't have the broadband. They don't have the ability to use it. Whether it's because they live in a region that doesn't have broadband access, or they purposely don't pay for broadband access and they prefer the lower tier services that's just enough to give them what they want, right? So a service like Google Stadia, even PS Now, and eventually Microsoft's xCloud is useless to them because they don't have the service. Again, whether they choose to or they can't use these services. But what they can use is a dedicated device in their home, whether it's an Xbox console, PlayStation console, Nintendo Switch. They got a dedicated device, right? And their internet may be good enough just to download games. Maybe not to play multiplayer, intensive multiplayer, but at least to access PSN and download games and pay for it. Granted, it might take a day to download the game, you know, because of slow internet, a day and a half. But you put it on rest mode and go to sleep, and the next day, a couple hours later, you'll get it, you know? So the console will have penetration all across the US. Google Stadia, PS Now, xCloud, not so much. You're limited to markets, right? So by default, Google's not going to be able to have that much impact on Microsoft, Nintendo, or Sony because the audience is not even there to do that, okay? And that's just availability. Now add the people who do have internet, who do have broadband internet, have great internet. They have Google Fiber, 1 gig internet, all the people that do, right? Right? So you got the gamers that can get it, but they refuse not to because, one, they don't want to be stuck with always online. Two, even if it's just a little bit, any little latency, then we're not going to tolerate any little latency. Three, you can't buy physical media. Four, a lot of us have already, how would you say, invested so much into digital media. You go to Google Stadia, you got nothing. You don't even have a friends list, right? Like you're literally starting from scratch with nothing, you know? A lot of the people that are talking about Google Stadia are like the tech enthusiasts and the people that are interested just in new technology. But the actual gamers that want to dedicate themselves to a next generation gaming platform, Google's not interested. In fact, I remember seeing a survey, it's like 3% of the people are interested in Google. Because think about it, you go to Google Stadia, you really got nothing. It's a brand new platform. They have not announced big exclusives. The only games they talk about is multiplats. One of them be like, oh, look, we're getting Red Dead 2 day one. People already have Red Dead on their consoles, right? The only people that don't have Red Dead is the PC gamers, and they're not gonna play it on Google Stadia. They waited a year so they could have the best version of Red Dead and probably attempt to create mods, all that shit. Play it at 60 frames, 100 frames. They're not gonna mess with Google Stadia. So PlayStation gamers already play Red Dead. Xbox gamers already play Red Dead, and PC gamers want the best version of it. Who's gonna play Red Dead on Google Stadia? Who's gonna be like, oh man, I'm gonna get Google Stadia and play some Red Dead? You know what I'm saying? They haven't done anything, you know? And I know TZ Rides so quick, Google haven't even played their handful yet. Bro, like November's coming in 2 months. What are they gonna show? You know? What? They're gonna show their first party exclusive games the day prior? They have to show their games like today. We're in October. You know? November's next month, and November's their launch, right? Like, how much, like, you know what I'm saying? Not everybody has played RDR2 yet. You're right. The people who haven't played it are the ones that probably aren't interested in it. Like, the game's been out for over a year, and it's available on Xbox and PlayStation. The only people that haven't played it that's able to play are PC gamers. And you're telling me a PC gamer is going to play it over streaming? You know what I'm saying? Heave7, Semper Fi, what's going on, bro? You know what I'm saying? Ultimately, right now, streaming, and this is already for everybody, they don't have the audience. That's going to take years to be built. They don't have the games. Google has not announced exclusives. They haven't announced big AAA games. I don't even know what studios they got to make big games. Right now, it's just a platform. Right? The audience that started gaming already built a huge library across Xbox. There's guys who probably won't even convert over to PlayStation, regardless of how bad or good Xbox Scarlet is, simply because they already invested way too much money to start over. That's the thing about this generation. This generation, I would consider, it's kind of like phones. You know, a lot of people are team iPhone. A lot of people are team, you know, Android, simply because it's a done decision. You know, they already built up their apps. They paid a lot of money. They invested in the ecosystem. So they're not leaving to start over simply because of a couple of features or phone design or a little difference here. Some people are like, hey, I got everything here. I want everything to carry over to the next platform. So everything I paid for before needs to transition over to what I have now. There's going to be a lot of people do that. There's going to be a lot of Xbox guys that their day one console to Scarlet, because that's going to transition over to Scarlet. Same thing with PlayStation Nation. A lot of people, PlayStation 5 is what they're going for, because they want everything to transition over to that. You know what I'm saying? That's how it is. So with that, I don't see right now at this point Google Stadia is a big threat. Don't have the big killer games. Can't get the audience. So even, you know, the people that do want it, they can't get it. I don't think PS Now, Google Stadia, Xbox, xCloud are going to be the big players of gaming and stuff like that. Especially when the native hardware, they're pushing technology that is going to be incredible and stuff like that. And I think people are going to gravitate more to the dedicated hardware for gaming, unlike for movies. I know some people will use Netflix and music, but the thing is with Netflix and music, it's a passive entertainment. There's no feedback to the entertainment. You just sit there, you know, and you watch a movie, and most people don't have a lot of expectation other than the movie itself being good, you know. There's people who get a little bit of buffering from Netflix. They don't flip out much. Like the Netflix starters, or you see the little buffering thing, and then the movie plays again. Nobody has an issue, you know what I'm saying? And music is just music. You play it off a watch and you just listen. So it's not really huge expectation. Gaming's a whole different story. Imagine you're playing, you know, Gears of War, or you're playing Call of Duty, and the game stutters because the streaming got buffering or interference, and now you're dead. That ruins the experience. Imagine playing a fighter and the game stutters, and now you're like, you know, hell, people get pissed off with lag now. And we're talking just multiplayer. Imagine a whole game being streamed, you know? Imagine a single-player game streaming, you know, like a Bayonetta type game. You know, a very high-intensity action game, you know, quick reflexes, and the game stutters a little bit, you know? There's a latency, which causes you to get hit and die. A lot of gamers are not going to have the tolerance for an improperly run game as compared to the tolerance people have for watching movies or TV shows or whatever. And music is kilobyte files. The files are so small, you rarely get any type of... Hell, you can listen to music on McDonald's Wi-Fi using a free app on Spotify. So that's why I don't consider those medium as reflective of gaming, because gaming has a higher standard of what we expect from it, you know, a much higher standard, because it's more than just watching. You just don't sit there and watch it. You have to interact with it, right? And that interaction is more important than the watching, because if your interaction with the game in any way is less than satisfactory, you're going to hate the experience. You know, the controls, you know, the reaction stuff, it's going to piss gamers off. And gamers get pissed off when the game fails to do what it's supposed to do. You know, gamers want, when you press a button, the game instantly reacts to the button pushing. It has to be like that all the time, you know. A gamer pushes a button or moves a thumbstick and the game don't react when it's supposed to, that's going to make the gamer flip out, you know. And that's the challenge behind streaming. Can you get consistent all the time that level of reaction, you know? People will trust dedicated hardware to provide that more so than streaming, you know, and stuff like that. But let me do a couple of things. Let me do a few things. Let me tweet this out. But great questions, great stuff like that. Give me un momento. Un momento. All right. Let me share this out. 133 people watching, 39 likes. Come on, hook a brother up, man. It's just a push of a button. Just hit that thumbs up. You know, give me some habu. You know, habu, hook a brother up. All right? That's all I'm asking. All right? I'm live right now. All right. There we go. We got that tweeted. And then, man, I need an assistant for all this shit. There's a lot of shit to do, right? But it's all right, though. It's worth it. It's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. Let's do our thing. Let's go. Here we go. Oh, my God. And let me pin to profile. And boom. All right. So we ready. It's a little bit 12 minutes past. Big Cow Gaming, let me know if you need a layout. You know what? Yeah, we'll talk offline, Ryan. So you can give me some ideas, because I have no idea. I have no idea what to even do. I'm not a creative person. I suck at creativity. I'm more of a ones and zero guy. Like, I deal with raw facts and stuff. But like the creativity side, I suck at it. But it's all right though, right? Let's do it like this though. All right. Hold on. Do we go here? Do we go here? Do we go there? Okay. All right. So we're gonna start off. We got great news. Sony tweeted out, and there's an article from Wire.com talking more information about the PlayStation 5, right? Sony typed it up in their blog post, and there's a couple of interesting tidbits information. Namely one, Mark Cerny clarified, first thing to talk about, clarification for Mark Cerny. So the last time Mark Cerny talked about the PlayStation 5, he mentioned ray tracing, right? And he realized that since that announcement, it was an ambiguous statement, meaning, did he mean software ray tracing or hardware ray tracing? A lot of people were assuming the PlayStation 5 would have software ray tracing. Mark Cerny realized he left the door open for that to happen, so he wanted to make a correction to the statement. So he officially told people it is not a software level way of doing ray tracing. It is encoded into the hardware, into the GPU. So it is official. PlayStation 5 has hardware ray tracing, okay? I'm not going to get into the details of how great it is. It's great technology. It's going to make the game look great. Good for that. We'll get more details on that. Xbox Scarlet is going to have the same thing. Why do I want to touch on that? There's a reason why, if you look at my channel videos, I don't really talk about speculative hardware, all right? I don't really talk about speculative hardware because it doesn't make sense to constantly talk about something that's really nothing there to talk about because you don't know what the company's actually going to do. So you spend your time talking about stuff and then it never happens, which makes you realize, why did you spend some time talking about it, right? A lot of people were making the assumption that the PlayStation will not have software ray tracing. Now it's confirmed to do, right? And the main thing I've been telling people, don't flip out on the hardware. Just wait till you get information. Whatever little information Sony does validate, speak on that, right? Be hyped about that. See how you can apply to gaming. And that's what you need to do, all right? So it's confirmed. Hardware ray tracing, right? Next thing to talk about. Sony confirmed it's the PlayStation 5, which is kind of weird because, like, is it really a secret? Like, we kind of know it's a PlayStation 5. We know the next PlayStation is going to be called PlayStation 6. I don't know why they have to wait a while to confirm that, but it's officially confirmed PlayStation 5, right? And it will release holiday 2020, right? Usually holiday 2020 is a window of October to December, right? I would imagine it will be out in time by November. November is the biggest month for launching consoles. It's been successful in the past. There's potential it could come out in early October. It all depends on how much they could manufacture and stuff like that and how soon they could get out there. But I would say a good normal bet is November. So prepare yourselves, save up your money. I'm going to guess $500 at this point. I think $400 is safe to say is out of the window with everything they're talking about. All right? And we're going to get into why, whatever. But we know it's Zen, right? We know it's Navi. Hardware ray tracing. It's $500 at this point. You know, it has SSD built into it. It's $500 and stuff like that. But November 2020, it's popping. Save your money. If you don't have a 4K TV, I have one right there back to me. But guess what? My wife's not going to let me play on that sucker. She's going to look at me like, nah, sorry, son. So now I have to save up for another 4K TV for my own home, for my man cave. So I'll probably get me a 50-inch, much smaller. That one's a 75-inch. But she's not going to let me play on that sucker. Right now, I have my PlayStation there, but that's only because my wife's in New York visiting my daughter. You know what I'm saying? She missed her, and she's also visiting her grandma. So I'm taking advantage playing on the big TV. But she comes back the 15th. So guess where the PlayStation is going to go back to before the 15th? It got to go back to the man cave. So I got to better get an AK, P-Rock. Oh, hell nah. I'm not doing that. Some of these games, I better get an AK. I'm not doing that. All right? I'm going to keep it simple. A nice 50-inch 4K. I'm good. We're going to do this. It's going to be great. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be popping. I'm going to get me the PlayStation 5 day one for certain reasons. And not just mainly for the power. We're going to talk about more. But that's so 2020, right? They talked about the controller. That got me so excited, you know? Because that's what there's a reason why I didn't buy the Pro. There's a reason for it. Right? Because the Pro is literally just a power boost, right? Regardless of how the game looks, you know, same thing with the One X. When I want to buy a new console, it's more than just the power. What else does this product bring in terms of entertainment of the game, right? And the controller sounds amazing, right? So with the controller, it's redesigned. It's going to have haptic feedback vice the traditional vibration that it currently has. And it's supposed to be a deeper level of vibration to give you a more feel of certain textures and reactions. So for example, like while you're holding the controller, you'll know the feel of walls crumbling, right? Or the feel of driving on a rough road, going through a mountain, the shake of an earthquake. It's supposed to give you that unique feel of that. In the Wired magazine, they actually, the author actually had some examples from PlayStation. So for example, one of the examples was driving GT Sport, right? And he could tell the feel of driving on different roads, like when the car's on the grass as compared to when the car's on the road. He says you could feel that difference between, you know, the traction between the two surface areas from the feedback that the controller is providing, which I thought was pretty amazing. And that's kind of amazing. Imagine fighting games and, you know, whatever, that the controller feels the environment in various ways. That's a whole new level of immersion. I think that's fantastic. sidebar note, I would love next generation PlayStation Move controllers to have that for VR. You know, currently you have the VR, you have the two freaking dildo sticks, right? You have the two Move controllers, right? But it doesn't really have feedback or whatever. But imagine if those controllers had that haptic feedback. So when you're playing these VR games, it gives you that same level of immersion. Absolutely phenomenal, right? The next best thing about the controller is the trigger will have adaptive triggers, right? So now, Xbox does have what they call adaptive triggers, but it's the vibration. So they have individual vibrations on these Xbox controllers to give you a vibrating feel, kind of like a higher level of, or the next level, or, you know, a level of vibration feedback, but directly on the trigger, right? The PlayStation one is not so much the haptic, it's actual resistance. It's the force, you know? So it's supposed to be like, so let's say you're playing Tomb Raider and, you know, you're with Lara Croft and you're pulling on the bow, the developer will design the resistance of the trigger to give you that force resistance to make it feel like you're really pulling and stretching that bow out. So the trigger's giving you that real tight resistance, stuff like that. Also, with the resistance, you'll be able to feel the difference between a trigger pull of a pistol versus a trigger pull of, let's say, of a rifle. For those of you in the military, you know exactly what I mean. You know, like the M9 Beretta, the trigger pull of an M9 Beretta is much more tighter. It's a little bit harder. You know, the pounds per square inch to pull it as compared to an M16, which you could be like, it's very simple. So imagine when you play shooters, each weapon, right, would not be different in just design based on the specs of the game, you know, because the game will say rate of fire, power, you know, its accuracy, but you'll actually feel it. So now when you're playing shooters, the resistance of the trigger will be part of your preferred weapon. You might be like, well, I don't like this type of weapon because, you know, it's a tougher trigger pull as compared to this weapon where I could rapidly fire, is a lot less resistance. Think about that. You know, the weapons will now impact your trigger pull. Now, I would imagine Sony will have an off feature, you know, like games we have Rumble and they turn it off. So, you know, some people don't like Rumble, whatever. So they might have that to where you won't have these sensations. But if you want the full immersion, imagine playing Call of Duty or your favorite shooter, right? And the actual resistance of each gun is part of your determination of what gun you like to shoot with in these games. You know, imagine driving games for you guys who like to play driving simulators and you don't use a wheel, you use a controller. Imagine the type of cars you like to drive in a race, you know, because, you know, as you press gas, certain cars, you know, as you press gas has better resistance, or not better, but tougher resistance compared to other. Your choice of car might be like, well, I don't like this car because, you know, the resistance is a little bit tougher. So you have all these choices now that brings you a whole new level of immersion to these games, which is absolutely incredible. That control alone, I ain't going to say it's a game changer, per se. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to go that crazy. But it does provide added immersion. It provides more depth to the games themselves, you know? Because when you think about it, if the console just has graphics, 4K graphics and textures and particles, that's not really a big next generation jump, other than the games look better. But this now adds a layer of immersion that you couldn't get with the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. Now, they did say the technology was looked into and started development as soon as PlayStation 4 controllers were developed, right? And they had it done that they technically could have provided the controller for the PlayStation 4 Pro, but they didn't want to split the experience from the audience. You know, they want the experience to be universal day one across all platforms, so they saved it for the PlayStation 5, which I think is a smart idea, because what that does is it gets tied, that level of immersion experience gets tied as part of next generation gaming, you know? So when you jump to next generation gaming, it's part of the package of why you jumped. And it's not just simply, well, I jumped to next gen simply because it's a new console. You want more than that, right? Another good upgrade is USB Charlie, USB-C, right? And the controllers can be played wired directly. I know that might be interesting for a lot of competitive gamers, for fighters and shooters. You got that direct connection for those that want it. A bigger battery life, much needed. much needed. All right. They didn't mention. I didn't notice because the article is huge. They didn't talk about the light bar. I'm assuming it has the light bar. I always wanted the light bar to be turned off. You know, because if I wasn't using it, turn it off, right? I don't know. But with the Type-C, and somebody mentioned there, with the Type-C faster charging, right? Faster charging, better battery life. According to one of the Sony reps, the controller is as heavy as an Xbox One controller without the batteries packed in. So that's the weight of the controller with the new upgraded battery and all the features. Also a new speaker system of whatever. So this is interesting. Salty Gaming made a point. I'll be down with the light bar getting ditched. I don't think that's going to happen. And the only reason why is that light bar is part of the VR, of how VR is monitored. You know, because you could play VR games with the controller, but the camera needs to see. That light bar is the visual aid for the camera. So there is a reason why. I mean, I got it. Whether we like it or not, there is an intended purpose behind it, and it's because of VR. I think just being able to turn it off, because if you're not using it, then there's no reason to put it. And I know there's other things that PlayStation 4, Sony mentioned, like, oh, you know, if you're playing split screen and the player swap, the camera knows the player swaps and the screen swap. Whatever. It's not that big of a deal, you know. I prefer to much turn it off so that way it saves on battery life. Like, you know, but we'll see how that goes. But amazing controller, great additive to that, right? Along with the interview, Bluepoint officially announced that they're working on a big project for PlayStation 5. You know, obviously we know companies are making PlayStation 5 games, but it feels good to know that Bluepoint, that the project they've been working on is specifically for the PlayStation 5. They didn't say much into it. They said it's a big project, so we'll leave it up to you. Lots of rumors that it's a remake of Demon Souls, right? Now, Demon Souls is part, well, obviously the history of Demon Souls. There are other games. I think it's called King something that From Software made. Chat, please, if you have the chance, if you could type the name. Kingsfield? From Software made a game. I think it's Kingsfield, okay? If you play Kingsfield, you can tell that is the initial essence of what the Dark Souls saga is, right? But Kingsfield has a lot of stuff from that, right? And then they evolved it to Demon Souls. For those of you that don't know, Demon Souls is pretty much what started the Souls crave, and it's exclusive to PlayStation 3. It was a sleeper hit. It came out of nowhere, right? Initially launched in Japan first, right? I remember in the forums, this was before Twitter and Facebook and all that stuff. I remember in the forums, somebody posted a video and they're like, hey, I'm playing this Demon Souls game. And I looked at it, I'm like, man, that's pretty cool. You know, I hope it gets localized into the West. And they localized it into the West. And for whatever reason, it blew up, right? And I don't mean like it blew up to like 10 million, 12 million sales, because they never achieved those sales. But the few, I think it sold like 2 million, 3 million. Everybody talked about it. One, they talked about the challenge of the game, which brought back a lot of the old school gamers be like, this is old school gaming, where it's challenging, it doesn't hold your hand, but it's fair, right? And people loved it. People loved the design, the artistic lore, and they loved the intuitive way, the innovative way they multiplayer, where you summon people. We all know how it works, right? And it became a big hit, right? And I think it, if I remember correctly, because back in those days, GameSpot was like the place for system wars. If you went to the console war, back in those days, GameSpot was the spot to be, right? And everybody used GameSpot. Well, I guess everybody, but everybody that was part of GameSpot community and system wars, that was the spot to be the console war. And whatever GameSpot said, that was law, right? That year, Demon Souls was GameSpot's game of the year. And everybody was like, the fuck? And that was the same year Uncharted 2 came out, right? But everybody's like, on GameSpot, you know, in the System Wars forum, even the Xbox community was shocked. Everybody was like, Demon Souls? So that made it even more like, holy shit, we gotta try this game. From there, because Demon Souls is an IP, even though it was made by From Software, it belongs to Sony. From Software wanted to make a Demon Soul type game, but make it multiplat, make it available for 360. That's where Dark Souls came into play, which is the spiritual successor of Demon Souls. But same gameplay, lots of improvements. They made it more open world because Demon's Souls was more like a hub that you had to transport yourself to, while Dark Souls was more of a connected universe. Great gameplay, whatever. And they called it Dark Souls, and it was multiplayer, right? So why I mentioned that? Because rumor has it that the remake, brand new up and down remake, is going to be Demon's Souls, right? If it is, you're talking much improved, because the game was rough on the PlayStation 3. It was rough, you know. But I could imagine a smooth 60 frames per second frame rate. The artistic design graphics going to look beautiful. And for those of you that like Dark Souls but never had a PlayStation 3, this will be a game you definitely want to play. All right? Definitely want to play. So I think if they could get Demon's Souls Remake as a launch title, or at least launch window for the PlayStation 5, it will be really good for those who wants to start out with the PlayStation 5 console and play a challenging, great game. And hopefully it will play much better than what you got for the PlayStation 3, right? So that's a good thing that they included a little bit of talk about gaming with the PlayStation 5 reveal. They also talked about the SSD, supposed to eliminate, the waiting time. And I think that's a huge part of next gen, especially with these games getting bigger. They also talked about, because of the implementation of SSD as compared to the the HDD, the hard disk drive that we normally use. Apparently, I learned, and most of you may already know, because you guys are a lot smarter when it comes to tech than I am. A lot of data gets duplicated, which is why a lot of games are huge. And the reason why is because the read speed of these hard disk drives isn't fast, so data gets duplicated to make the seek time faster. With the implementation of SSD, they eliminate that. So games will be smaller, yet have high read speed capability, and it opens up for the developers to create more detailed, bigger worlds, or the patches. There's potential we will no longer see 4, 5, 6, 7 gig patches because they're duplicating a lot of data for the read speed. Patches will be smaller, right? I think that's fantastic. The speed of the game is important because you want to get in there, right? Especially loading time when you're loading between stages. No, let's just hit this game hard, get the momentum going, right? Especially for these open world games. Let's just travel to any corner of the world. If you click a fast travel, all right, fast travel to this area, boom, you're there instantly. Let's get it popping. Let's get fighting. Let's not dollygag. That will be a great feature for next gen because that separates one generation to another. That's what we want. Another big thing, well, it depends how you look at it. I don't think at this point it's as big as it was, but it's the addition of the 4K Blu-ray player. I don't think it's big news, right? In the past, a couple of months ago, saying on Twitter, I said that Sony should add the 4K Blu-ray player, and a lot of people were against it. Or not really against it, but a lot of people disagreed simply because, Sony don't need it. Nobody cares about movie. I said they should add it simply because it's a narrative Sony doesn't have to worry about. If for anything else, just make sure you include a 4K Blu-ray player so that way nobody has anything to bitch about. So that way the focus is on the game console, right? If they didn't add a 4K Blu-ray player, people will talk about it and they will be outraged. They will say, how does a console from 2016 have a feature that a console from 2020 don't have? It would take away from what the PlayStation 5 is meant to be, right? So by having a 4K Blu-ray player, regardless of whether you need it or not, it's a conversation people will not have. No one will have a conversation in November or December 2020 on why PlayStation 5 doesn't have a 4K Blu-ray player. That conversation will not exist, all right? But the added bonus of going to this, which I think is also a big part of it, is the bigger storage space because now the disc will be 100 gigabytes, which is needed. Because most of the games are going to be native 4K, and those of you who have the Xbox One X, you guys know up front already that it takes up a lot of space. 4K gaming takes up a lot of space. So 50 gig disc is not going to cut it, right? So I think the combination of 100 gig storage space and the console being SSD, which means you don't have to duplicate a whole bunch of data, right? I think in the article it says Data, a lot of data gets duplicated almost 400 times over in a day, right? So the combination of smaller data plus bigger disk, you'll be able to get games that fit day one. Because I noticed some games, you buy it off the disk, but you need an internet connection because you have to download the rest of the games. So I think now that's going to be a good part. Somebody said PS1 day one, 950 AU and 1200 for the US. Nah, Sony's not gonna. It's gonna be $500 for Microsoft and PlayStation. It's gonna be $500. A console cannot survive at PC pricing. It's just not. People will not accept at this stage of our economy of a $700, $800 console. It would fail. No one would buy it. And then Microsoft and Sony will be forced to drop the price, which means they will lose even more money and stuff like that. So we don't have to worry about that. And so I think I covered pretty much everything for the PlayStation, right? I covered the SSD, which is fantastic. Covered the controller. Talked about Bluepoint. Holiday launch 2020. PlayStation 5 is the official name. Is there anything that has a 4K Blu-ray player? What else? I think that's it. I think that's pretty much the news on stuff like that as far as PlayStation 5 is concerned, right? I'm excited. I would imagine we're going to hear some news about Microsoft, and it's going to be similar. Probably touch on the controller. You're not going to get price points yet. That's going to be for the official unveil. Can't wait to see more games, the actual games being presented. Stuff like that. The stream's not over. Don't go leave. I know some of you might think it's about to end, because remember, I still owe you guys a Q&A. All right? So if you left, come back. Come back. It's like Titanic. Come back. Don't leave. All right? I was just doing a quick recap, because now we're gonna get into the next phase. All right? This is where it gets fun. This is where the New York is gonna come out of me. All right? This is where New York's gonna come out of me, all right? So if people laugh, retweet them, DM them, tell them, yo, come back, because shit's about to get popping. All right? And we're gonna talk about this on the 60 frames when we do our 60 frames no lag podcast on Friday. Hell, I'm gonna do a stream, hopefully with Zaire today. Depending on which way it goes, I might even be on the multiplayer podcast this Thursday. Because I need answers, Sway. Somebody better give me answers. Somebody tell me, somebody in the chat, where the narrative that Sony started crossplay now, allowed crossplay because Sean Layden left. Somebody help me out with that. Because I saw like 2 or 3 podcasts, right? And like almost the whole entire podcast is, because Sean Layden left, Sony added first party to PS Now. Not true, because they already did that. Sean Layden was the one that was preventing crossplay. Not true at all. Complete lie. Now, I'm going to tell you why it's a lie. All right? Because Sony caved in to crossplay last year in September. I even tweeted it out, right? Last year in September 2018, Sony made an official blog announcement, just no different than the blog we have now, right? About the PS5. They blogged saying that they will support crossplay, right? And they started a beta program. And the first game in the beta program is Fortnite, right? And in that blog post, they said that this is a change to Sony Interactive Entertainment worldwide policy, because they saw feedback from the gamers that that's what they really wanted from the multiplayer game. So Sony caved in, and they started a beta program, right? And that more third parties will be part of it, more information to follow. They caved in last year. They made a big block. Now, granted, this was in September. So we all know last September, right? Spider-Man came out. So the big news was puddles. So maybe that's it. Maybe nobody noticed or properly read the article because it was all about puddles in September. Like puddles it was Puddlegate. We all know Puddlegate. It was puddles. Spider-Man don't got puddles, so I'm not buying Spider-Man. That's what it was. That was what it was all about in September, right? You have people that was enjoying the hell out of Spider-Man. You have people that canceled their pre-orders because there was less puddles. And then you have people that had Xbox and realized, what the hell I got an Xbox for when it has no Spider-Man. I mean, it was just a whole craziness in the month of September. So maybe that news fell under the rug and people didn't notice. But Sony, at the time, John Cordero, who at the time was the CEO of Sony Interactive Entertainment, now him and Jim Ryan swapped, because at the time Jim Ryan was the deputy, CEO. John Cordero was the CEO. They swapped, and the reason why is John Cordero wants a deeper role into PlayStation Network, and he couldn't do that as CEO. Jim Ryan took over CEO, right? Different conversation. But at the time when John Cordero was the CEO in September, he's the one that made the announcement on the blog post. He typed it himself. They're doing crossplay. It's a done deal. The heat that Sony took last year from the community of gamers, they caved. So how something that Sony said, hey, all right, you win. We're going to start a beta program. Fortnite is the first game to be part of that program. So you're cross-playing with Xbox, whatever. More games will be included as this beta further develops. So somebody explain to me how Sean Layden leaving Sony got tied into this when this is over a year ago that Sony caved in. It's been a year. Okay, number two. Also, if Sony finally put in first-party games on PlayStation, no, Sony already had first-party games. They had Killzone, right? Technically, Bloodborne second-party, but it's a Sony-owned IP. Bloodborne was published by Sony, and it's owned by Sony. It's their game. You understand what I'm saying? And they put that on PS Now. And then there's a lot of indies that Sony owns that's on PS Now also. And then there's a lot of first-party IPs from the PlayStation 3 that's on PS Now. So there's first-party IPs that Sony owns all over the place on PS Now. They've been did that. So how did that become a Sean Layden thing? Right? I don't know what the hell's going on. Like nothing like this. This reminds me of 2014. This exactly, shout out to Legion, thank you for the support. This exactly reminds me of 2014. Exactly. It's almost deja vu all over again, right? And the reason why I bring up 2014 was because in 2014, Sony as a corporation announced they're collapsing or dissolving, liquidating their PC division. They're no longer doing any more PC stuff. If you notice, no more VAIO, no laptops, that's gone. They're not successful to PC. Kazurai saw that this is one division that they cannot resolve or make better, so he just got rid of it. With that decision, all the manufacturing plants that built Sony laptops and desktops, gone. Peripherals, gone. The offices that dealt with PC, the buildings that were specifically there for the divisions, gone. Layoffs, because they have personnel that was specifically part of the PC divisions in terms of marketing, design, and all that, gone. All of that was gone, right? It was PC. Sony's getting rid of it, right? Xbox personalities during that time in 2014, with YouTube channels or whatever, right? They used that. What was going on with Sony's PC liquidation, right? Getting rid of it, selling the buildings, selling the manufacturing plants, all that stuff, right? They used that. They took what was happening at the time with PlayStation, where Sony was pushing a lot of indies, and you saw Sony was swallowing up all the multi-plat marketing deals, right? So they took two separate scenarios that had nothing to do with each other, right? And they combined it into a story where they sold, or well, not sold, but they told the YouTube community, the Twitter community, that Sony's broke. Sony's so broke that it's to the point where they have to sell buildings liquidate jobs. And because of that, they do not have money to build new AAA IPs. Therefore, the only thing they can do is get marketing rights and indies. Therefore, if you buy a PlayStation, you're just going to have a generation of marketing third-party multiplats and indie games. While Xbox will provide you with the big AAA exclusives. That was the narrative being built. Two unrelated things being merged together for the purpose of making Xbox look good. And it's happening again. They're taking Sean Layden's departure and they're taking information, they're combining it together to make Xbox look good and say, hey, these people are doing what Xbox is doing because Xbox, Microsoft, Phil Spencer knows exactly what he's doing. So everybody's copying off of Phil Spencer. So Phil Spencer was right. That's really what the situation is, right? And the reality is that's not the case. Sean Layden wasn't against crossplay because, again, that decision was already done last year. Sony said we're doing it. They created a beta program, right? The program's out of beta. Now it's officially launched for all third-party to use. And the program is to help third-party do that task. So when they make their games crossplay for Xbox, Nintendo, PC, whatever, they now have a fully fledged out releasable tool to do that. That's all Sony was working on over the last year. The decision for crossplay was done, right? Sean Layden didn't stop first-party games from going on PS Now because it was already there. There was already first-party games released on PlayStation Now. So these things was already there. If anything, if you looked at the facts, right? Because now all of a sudden, a lot of people were saying, oh, Sean Layden's the last true traditional player in Sony. Have you not been reading Sean Layden's quotes over the last 6, 7, 8 months? He's been very open to other platforms officially from his own quote. In fact, the last quote he said publicly in the interview was, expect to see first-party library opening up the multiplayer to PC. And we're not talking PS Now. He made a quote potentially putting multiplayer games on PC. That's not a traditionalist console advocate. You don't talk about PC, right? And before that, he made a quote of inclusive where somebody asked him the question pertaining to where does he see the future of gaming? And he says he sees the future of gaming everywhere. Streaming, consoles, handhelds, PC, all of it, right? And he said out front that no device is a specific device for gaming. All devices is a way towards the gaming. So he's not as much as Phil Spencer, because Phil Spencer, he went all in terms of putting games everywhere. Phil Spencer did not hold his tongue back on that. Sean Layden is a little light on that, but he has alluded and talked about putting putting content to a wider market. And those are his words. He mentioned putting content on a wider market. That's not a traditionalist console if you look at it, right? Now, I'm not going to say those statements is what's got him fired. I don't know what got him fired. I don't know if he's really fired. Who knows? It could be medical for all you know, that he had a departure. Could be an allegation. Who the hell knows, right? But the information we do have now is, for example, God of War, Uncharted, Infamous, and Grand Theft Auto 5 are on PS Now on a limited time basis. So you got about 3 months to play these games, right? More than enough to play them if you don't have access to a PlayStation 5. If you're a PC gamer and you don't have access to a PlayStation, I said 5, I meant 4, and you don't have a PlayStation 4, but you don't want to invest the $200, whatever, then, stream it. If you never signed up for PlayStation Now, you actually get it, I think, 7 days for free now? So you technically could at least knock out one game for free with PlayStation Now, as long as you're willing to tolerate. Hopefully you have a great internet connection and that the connection is good for you. As long as you're willing to tolerate the inefficiencies or the issues game streaming has, you could technically play God of War for free. and enjoy some level of experience, you know? And I know some people on Twitter are calling PC gamers hypocrites because they talk about having PC, the best versions, and that's why they play on PC. So some people call them hypocrites if they play this game on PS Now because they're not playing the best version. My devil's advocate argument is it's free. So when you're playing a game for free, the best version, you're not going to flip out, you know? You're not going to flip out over a free game. You know, playing it at 720, 30 frames for a free game that you have to put no money towards, some people will tolerate that, you know? Because that's my thing. So that's what I wanted to bring out. I wanted to talk about where the hell this narrative came from with Sean Layden not doing crossplay, not putting first-party games on PS Now. And now all of a sudden, PlayStation's now no different than Xbox. And we're going to talk about it more because I'm going to have more people on the podcast, whatever, and we're going to have a good conversation there. So tune in. It's going to be 7 p.m. this Friday, Eastern Time. You know, so far J-Dub confirms coming. I'm going to have Jay Barry, Ryan, Carlos. I'm waiting for Craig to confirm. I'm waiting for All Day to confirm. And I'm going to hit up a couple of more people, well-rounded people, maybe some Xbox personalities to give us their perspective on all this, right? So it's going to be a great podcast. It's going to be bigly. You know, it's going to be bigly. I promise you're going to love it because it's going to be a great podcast. You're going to love it. It's going to be bigly. Make podcasts great again. All right. All right. So we got that out the way. All right. So let's do this, right? Let's open up to Q&A. I know a lot of yous are ready to talk. So at me with my name. Open it up. Let's get this Q&A going. I know a lot of yous appreciate it. So hit me up. Let's get it popping. We're going to spend a few more minutes. And then what I'm going to do, you know, play some games. And then I'm going to go jump on Zaire's stream. You know, unless he does it mad late because I'm not staying up that late. But he says he's going to do it at 5 o'clock. We'll see how it goes. But hook it up right now. Let's go, chat. Give me them Q&As. And survey says nobody has a question. And my man Deep 1985, don't ask now. Okay, Puertorock, will next gen be bringing DRM back? All right, so great question. All right, my man Vengeance. Let's talk about DRM before I answer that question because I want to set a baseline. Because to this day, there's a lot of people that do not understand what the complaint was with DRM and Microsoft. Okay. Here's the DRM. So in 2013, when Microsoft announced online only, Caleb Kaiser, thank you for the super chat. I will address your super chat real quick. Let me knock out this question. When Microsoft announced online only, which is former DRM, the issue behind it was a system hardware implemented digital rights management system to where the console was locked behind online functionality. And if at any point the console did not properly check in to Microsoft, you will lose access to playing games via your console. That means you could be playing Ori in a Blind Forest. You could play Rise, single-player games, Sunset Overdrive, Quantum Break, single-player games, right? Even movies. You try to play a movie, the console will literally be a brick, right? And because it's a brick, it does nothing. So it's tied to the internet. And that's what gamers did not like. Gamers did not like the fact that they could take a disc, put it in the Xbox, and it will do nothing unless the game is properly checked in to Microsoft servers and validated. And you would have to keep this up every 24 hours, okay? That is what the issue was, right? Software games always had DRM, right? Because it prevented you from digitally distributing the games from user to user. So obviously every digital software cell has DRM because when you buy the game, they didn't want you to copy the game and give it to somebody else, and now everybody's playing all these free games, you know? So software always had digital rights management at the software level, right? Which is usually tied to your console or to your username, right? But what Microsoft implemented was DRM to the hardware. So if the hardware didn't check in, It doesn't matter if you own the game. It doesn't matter if it was single player. It doesn't matter if it needed internet. You're not playing the game. They don't care if you want to play a movie, which has nothing to do with Microsoft. You pop in a movie made by Sony Studios, Spider-Man. You want to watch old school Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. Can't play it. Check in, please. Validate that the console has been properly verified over the last 24 hours. And you're like, man, this console's a brick. So now that I'm able to bring that understanding of DRM, they will not do that for next gen. There's no point to do that. There's no point to tie your console to an always online check-in. Okay? So no, I don't see them going for DRM, trying to do what Microsoft has. As far as DRM with software, that's always been there. DRM has always had that on software and stuff like that. And then naturally streaming, well, obviously if you're playing games via streaming, that's natural DRM tied to the online infrastructure. But outstanding question, thank you very much. Caleb Kaiser, thank you for the super chat again. I appreciate your patience. Caleb said, so we got confirmation from the article that the PlayStation UI, thank you for reminding me, will be altered because to me, I think the PS5 UI is perfect. What would you change? So yes, the article did mention user interface. So let's talk about the things they did. Thank you for reminding me. Great question, great reminder. So the user interface, and reading the article, they mentioned, like right now, the user interface, right? If you wanted to see people playing a multiplayer game, you will have to boot up that multiplayer game. And when you boot up the game, now you see everybody who's involved in it, right? Sony wants the UI to get away from that, where you can actually see, right, in your library, whether you have the game booted up or not, who's playing what. You can also see where you need to do or what things you need to do for single player. So they didn't talk much about it, but for right now, my interpretation is this, and maybe you guys might agree, but hopefully you can understand what I'm talking about. Have you ever played an open world game, right? The Witcher, Assassin's Creed, whatever, and then for whatever reason, Fallout, Elder Scrolls, right? Things with a lot of missions, and for whatever reason, you stop playing it. Maybe another game came along. Maybe you went on your Call of Duty binge. Maybe Madden came out and you started a season. Whatever reason, you stopped playing this big game, right? And then, after months, you decided, hey, let me go back to it. But when you went back to it, you completely forgot where you left off. You forgot the momentum. It took a while for you to get back and swinging things. Imagine if the UI, right, you're able to select the game and it reminds you, hey, these are the things that you've done. These are the things left to do. It gives you a quick recap without even booting it. Imagine being able to look and scan through your library. And of course, you don't want it cluttered. So it's maybe something that you deep dive into it. But the UI is efficient and reminds you of all the things you did, all the games you haven't played, all the accomplishments you have left to achieve. It's like an assistant, right? It tells you all the games your friends are playing, multiplayer games, all the modes. It's just general snapshot information of all the gaming, right? I think that would be fantastic as long as they keep it clean and not cluttered. I like the simple need to change much. I like being able to create folders easily, and I like to be able to go scroll left and up and down. That's it. Don't change it. Don't change it too much. Add more functionality, but minimize the clutter. But that little user information, if I interpret it right, I think that's pretty cool if Sony is able to push out that level of information without having to boot up the game. It's just there. You're able to access it, and boom. I think that's nice and clean. One thing in the user, what I would like, and somebody brought it up in the chat also, is the voice assistant activation assistance. Pretty much maybe like an Alexa type feature or Siri type feature. If they're going to implement some type of feature like that, I would like that feature to be very useful and friendly. And I think maybe the best implementation is for like, game assistants or YouTube. I'm having difficulty with a puzzle or with a trap, then I'll tell, PlayStation Siri, or maybe you can name the assistant whatever you want. I'll call her puta. I'll be like, mira puta, show me a tutorial on this board for this game. And puta answers, okay, Puertorock, here you go. And it pulls up YouTube and it'll play that video. And then I look at it. All right, puta, close the damn window. and puta closes the window. For those of you that are Spanish or know Spanish, you're probably laughing right now, right? I would like to see that. So that way I'm not on my phone, whatever. I could just do it straight from the thing. Pause it. And I'd be like, yo, puta, I need you to look up this. All right? Video, close it, rewind. All right? Replay. All right, got it. Close the window. And that's it. I get back into the game. I would like that. I think that would be pretty cool. And dudes right now are probably looking at me like I'm wilding out and shit. All right? But great question. Thank you so much. All right, let me scroll up through the chat. Let me see who else has questions. Puertorock, do you think the only difference between next gen will be higher clock CPU from the specs that will keep coming out? They seem to be exactly the same. So, do you think the only difference between next gen will be higher? Oh, so you're talking about between the two systems? So the difference, not the difference between next gen and this gen, but between the two systems, between Xbox Scarlet and PlayStation 5. If that's what you mean, the difference between the two platforms, the differences will be subtle. I don't think we're going to have the stark differences we have at launch with the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One vanilla. Because remember, one of the key things that held back Xbox One in hardware was because the Kinect camera was part of the overall cost. It's what made the platform $500. So something had to give. The console was already $500. They can't make it $600 or $700. So the hardware suffer. I think both companies are focused on providing the best possible gaming console for games with a $500 budget. They're both going to go all out. Maybe Microsoft and Sony might dive into monetary loss to really get the hardware we want. Maybe not. I don't know. But I will fully say Sony and Microsoft are dedicated to providing you a gaming console, right? With the best possible performance that money, retail money, will allow. What they feel is the most important component is where the differences is. Maybe one company may feel the CPU is more important than the GPU for whatever reason. So one product might have a little bit better CPU while the other product might have a little bit better GPU. Or maybe one may feel the RAM is more important. So you might have a little bit better RAM. It could be subtle differences depending on what the company wants to do overall. I will say for Sony, and I can't tell you which component would be more important, but I would imagine between the CPU and you guys definitely are much more smarter than me. And to be honest, this question now jumped in my head, or this thought just jumped in my head, so forgive me for not doing research. But between the CPU and the GPU, one of those components is more important for VR. So what I would imagine, whichever component between the two plays a bigger role for PSVR, that's the component Sony's gonna provide a little bit more focus on, just a little bit. Gonna give it a little bit more advantage. I can't tell you if it's the CPU or the GPU. I'm not versed in that. I'm not versed in how the CPU and the GPU, which of the two plays a bigger role for pushing PlayStation VR. But I would imagine if one of those two have a little bit more important role than the other, Sony's gonna provide a little bit more tender love and care for that component because PSVR is gonna be a big part of next generation. All right? But thank you very much. Great question, Legion. Next one, Jabali, what do you think PlayStation 5 launch games are? I would imagine a Call of Duty, since it's November, probably won't see a big difference, but you can imagine Call of Duty, you're going to see Madden, maybe 2K, the third parties, you're going to see that. Maybe some developers that are already making cross-gen games. I don't know what Sony's going to do. Rumor has it GT7. I know J-Dub told me he's a big Gran Turismo fan. He goes into the forum. So there's talk that Gran Turismo 7 could be a launch title. Maybe not day one launch, but launch window. I doubt Horizon Zero Dawn 2 will be that. Blue Point's game could be a launch title if it's Demon Souls Remaster. I could definitely see that being a launch title because that type of game, I don't see Sony expecting it to be 7, 10, 8, 9, 10 million. So it's a perfect launch title because it's not like the game was ever going to be a 10 million seller. At least they wouldn't put that as an expectation, right? So I could see Sony putting Demon Soul Remake as a launch title. Because you're not going to have the huge audience to make it sell 10 million, right? And that's why I think Horizon Zero Dawn won't be a PlayStation 5 launch title unless it's a cross-gen title. If Horizon Zero Dawn 2 is a cross-gen title, meaning available for PlayStation 4 and 5, then I can see it as a launch title. Because they're still going to get the sales from the PlayStation 4. You know, it's going to be interesting to see which games are cross-gen title and which games are strictly PlayStation 5 exclusives. Because they're going to have to do that. They're going to have to make PlayStation 5 exclusives if they want to sell PlayStation 5. They can't keep making every single game on the PlayStation 4 because you're not giving some users reason to truly make the jump, right? What else? Where are you getting the delusion that Cortana will ever be on PS? Why Xbox told you this lie? Did I say that? I didn't say Cortana. Talking about the voice assistants. That was in the article. Maybe you're talking to somebody else. So, I don't know. P-Rock. After Sony confirmed Ghost of Tsushima PS4 games, what's your hype level for it? Great point. In that same article, Jim Ryan or somebody stated that the PlayStation 4 games that were announced are PlayStation 4 games. They are not PlayStation 5 launch games. That means, well, we already knew The Last of Us was coming out in February, but Ghost of Tsushima is a PlayStation 4 game, and most likely is the swan song. So I would imagine Ghost of Tsushima will be a June release, June-July release, a couple of months before the PlayStation 5 is out here. So they'll release it in June, July timeframe, and that's a couple of months to have on its own. People will play it. I'm very hyped for it. You know what I'm saying? I love the background setting. I love new IPs. The game looks great, and I can't wait to see what Sucker Punch did. And I love the fact that Sucker Punch went to an extreme, completely different type of game to create. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. Let's see what we got. When are you getting the new PlayStation 5? I usually 1 to 2 years. Now, normally, I would wait at least a year, right? And then from there, after the year's up, I would see what games is out. That's why the PlayStation 4, I didn't get it till 2015 because I wasn't going to get it at launch because the PlayStation 5 broke on me. It was bad. So I wanted to see the quality of the build. So after a year, it was a good quality build, but I still looked at the games. I'm like, the biggest game out is Destiny, and I wasn't really feeling it. Some multiplats. Infamous did come out. I was like, I'll wait a little while. It's not that big of a deal. And then in February or 2013, Bloodborne came out, and I had to get it. That was the system seller for me. So I got it for Bloodborne, right? This gen, I'm getting that sucker day one, right? For a couple of reasons. Number one, I didn't get a PS4 Pro, right? So it's not like I jumped it's not like I invested in another gaming platform. I stuck with the Slim. So getting a PS5, getting a PlayStation 5 would be a huge jump in graphics for me, right? Number two, it's going to be backwards compatible with all PS4 games. So even, let's say, if the library is light and there's still a lot of great PlayStation 4 games I want to play, I'll still will play them just on the PlayStation 5. So I'll still have my PlayStation 4 experience, so no loss. That was another reason why I didn't get the PlayStation 4 the first year or the second year, because it wasn't, PlayStation 3 games wasn't backwards compatible, and I was still playing PlayStation 3 games. If the PlayStation 4 was backwards compatible, I would have bought it because I would not have missed out, right? My only concern is the quality of the build. You know, what if we get like another repeat of PS3 360 era where we have Yellow Light of Death, Red Ring of Death because of bad build? Hopefully, Sony continues and Microsoft continues with what they established this gen. Because you got to admit, this gen, the quality of the consoles overall has been good. You didn't hear mass failures. Sure, there was like a little stint of Xbox One X, a little stint of PlayStation Pro, people faking it, doing burn marks. But overall, this gen has been much better with the quality of the console compared to the 360 PS3 gen, by far. All right, let me see. Let me scroll down. Puertorock, who do you think runs PS Now that even Shuhei Yoshida would say that the price is too high and just registered to PS Now recently. That's a funny thing, right? Where I don't really believe Shuhei Yoshida recently signed on to PlayStation Now. I don't really believe that. I think it's a great marketing tool. Because when you think about it, a lot of people talked about that. And I think it's a great marketing ploy. You know, it's a great way. If people don't really sit back and think, I mean, he's the CEO of, I mean, he's not CEO, he's one of the main workers of PlayStation, and you don't have PlayStation Now? I call bullshit on that. Especially him. He plays everything, all right? A lot of people, hell, freaking Yoshida got bigger trophy level than most of us. He plays lots of games, right? And he loves the Nintendo Switch, and he has an Xbox. Him, Phil Spencer, these dudes, they play games. They are gamers. Yoshida's a gamer. So you cannot tell me he doesn't have PlayStation Now. But it's a great marketing ploy. It's actually hilarious. Like, oh shit, you dropped the price, PlayStation? Oh yeah, I'll sign up. Get the fuck out of here. Stop lying. You know what I'm saying? But it's a great marketing ploy. It's pretty funny too. And everybody talked about it. It got rival, right? That one of the big wigs of Sony wasn't even subscribed to PlayStation Now. It's a great catch, right? It's pretty funny, to be honest. Puertorock, what studio should Sony buy next? Interesting. I mean, if Bluepoint's putting the effort into these PlayStation games, I don't see why Sony wouldn't acquire them if Bluepoint wants to be sold and be part of Sony Studios. It would be a benefit to Bluepoint because they'll have access to Sony Studios, you know, Worldwide Studios money. And I think there's a lot of IPs PlayStation gamers want back. All right, that's one thing. We want new IPs, but there's some legacy titles that disappeared and never got the chance to grow. One of them is like Legend of Dragoon. It's not a big seller, but it's a cult hit. And a lot of gamers want that game to have a second chance. They want that game to give Legend of Dragoon one more chance. Do a full-blown remake. Not a remaster, because it's a PlayStation 1 game, so it would look ugly if you just remastered it with higher graphics. Rebuild it from the ground up. Market it. Give that game another chance, because it was a great game. You know, it just wasn't something that was popular. So give the game another chance. There's games people want, you know, Siphon Filter. Give that game another chance. You know, there's certain games people want renewed life. Let Bluepoint be that studio. You know, let them be able to reinvigorate these games for new life and see if we can give them a second chance. So I would like Bluepoint to realistically be acquired and see if they could take on that mission. Christopher, great question. And, you know, Alvin, thank you for the PS Now question. And the nail bat, thank you so much for that question. Christopher, he said, Puertorock, do you think skeptics and damage control artists are going to finally admit PS5 is a beast with ray tracing ready to make the haters buck? Oh, listen. Both companies are going to make a beast console, okay? They're both going to make a proper console. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to the games. They're both going to have ray tracing. They're going to have SSD. Maybe some subtle difference between the controller. There's going to be some things. But the main difference that's always going to be in play, that's going to be the most talked about, that's going to be the most notable, is the PlayStation 5. I mean, is the games. I said the PlayStation 5. Is the games, right? So with that, for me, as long as the console's the beast for PlayStation developers and third party, I'm good. It's going to be crazy. But there's this news report, there's some dudes that are in their fields. They're just not saying nothing. They're keeping quiet, right? Baltimore, MVP. What's your thoughts on MLB Show the 19? In my opinion, PlayStation best exclusive. Don't shoot me. I haven't played 19. All right, I played 17. I played 18. I usually take a break every other year or so. In fact, 17 and 18 back to back was the first time I played baseball back to back. Normally, I would have skipped 18. I played, you know, I skipped 16. I played 17. I had Ken Griffey. I was excited. Then 18 came out. I wasn't going to play 18 until they put Aaron Judge on the cover. I'm sorry, dog. I'm going to support my Yankees. You know, if they would have put another Yankee on the cover, I'm supporting Yankees through and through. All right. Luckily, the Knicks suck, so you'll never see a Knick on the cover of 2K. Because if they would have put a Knick on the cover of 2K, I'm buying that too. But they suck ass, so no one cares about them. So I'm lucky I don't have to buy 2K because you won't see the New York Knicks on the cover. But this year I didn't do it, but I downloaded it for free, so I'm going to kick it. One, like you and I, we love baseball. There's people who are baseball fans. If you're a baseball fan, MLB, the show, is dope. It's dope. It's what, if there's, I mean, think about it this way. You got Madden, right? People who love American football, right? So Madden's really the only game we got. Everybody complains about Madden, but people play it because it's the only thing available, right? Then you got 2K. Right? Of course, EA tries to do the NBA Live. It's trash. So everybody plays 2K. Because they love basketball. They're big basketball fans. And 2K is the best basketball game, right? But people complain about 2K. The fans who play the game complain about 2K. Even FIFA, right? The biggest soccer game out there. Die-hard FIFA fans still complain about FIFA, right? But when you look at MLB, there's very little complaint for whatever reason. Sure, there's always going to be something, right? But for the most part, baseball, the studio, San Diego studios that makes this game, they listen to the community, and it's the way baseball fans want it, Even though they're the only baseball out in the market, San Diego studios don't use that as an excuse to come out with a subpar product. They take pride in trying to make an excellent baseball game every year. You know what I'm saying? They don't rest on their laurels simply because, nobody else makes baseball games. Fuck it. Here you go. We'll patch it, And that's what's upsetting about people with Madden and 2K. They're realizing that, hey, it's either buy us or don't play nothing at all, So if you're a baseball fan, you owe it to yourself to play 2K, all right? Let's see what's going through. Sony needs to make a rugby game franchise because they have a strong sales in Europe. Rugby's a huge worldwide game too. I didn't realize that. Me being out in Europe, I didn't realize how big rugby was. It's pretty big, Maybe one of the European studios with the assistance of San Diego studios, whatever. Cortana. What's this thing about Cortana? Everybody's talking about Cortana. Why would Cortana be on PlayStation 5? Halo Gen Gaming says, go on Coast Show and say that you heard about Cortana being PS5 assistant on Puertorock Show. What the hell is going on with Cortana? Cortana's not going to be the voice for. Why would that even come? Who brought that up? Why would that even be a thing? Do you think MS can get off to a good start with Xbox Scarlet if it's $50 less than PS5, bundled with Halo Infinite and Game Pass Ultimate? Yeah. Here's the thing. The launch is not going to set the tone. Unless something disastrous happens, it's not going to really set the tone because everybody's going to get these consoles at launch. They're brand new consoles. And they're going to have great technology. And they're going to have new technology. They're going to have Ryzen. They're going to have Navi. That alone is going to make the tech enthusiasts, the media influencers, the geeks, the day one adopters, all that stuff. All the people, for whatever reason, whether you run a YouTube channel, social media channel, Twitch, you're a tech enthusiast that break down tech, you're just a day one adopter that loves tech, you're a nerd, whatever, right? A hardcore fan, Xbox, PlayStation enthusiast, call yourself whatever. Everybody's going to go out to buy these consoles. It is going to sell phenomenal, right? They're all going to sell great within the first 2-3 months. But after the first 2-3 months, after the 3 months, let's say if they launch in November, by February, March, right? Now you got the guys who will buy the console based on the merit of the console. After they see the first couple of months of hype, they're going to be like, okay, what's the hype about? Which one should I choose? Because I'm ready to buy a console right now. I just wanted to see a little bit of info. And it's going to be about the guided direction, game announcements, what their friends buy, and that's how it's going to play along, whatever. But I think Game Pass will be a huge part of Xbox Scarlet. Halo's going to be huge for the console. But that's going to be the diehards. It's going to be the Halo fans. So Xbox is going to get the sales. Both consoles are going to get the sales in the beginning of the month because the diehards are ready to get it. You know, especially the people who bought Xbox One and PlayStation 4 2013, which is 6 years ago. By the time next year comes, it's 7 full years. They are ready. They are thirsty. They're thirsty. They got to get it. What else we got? Brandon, great question for Horseman. Appreciate it. Brandon, he says, Puertorock, do you think the PS5 gen will be the last gen of consoles? Also, am I the only one that thinks the PS4 controller is too small? All right. I can't really answer that question now. A question like that, you have to see the heat of the momentum. For example, what if PlayStation 5 sells 150 million consoles? Similar to PlayStation 4. Sony's not going to be like, well, even though we sold 100 to 150 million consoles, yeah, we're done. They're not going to do that. If there is a huge demand for a physical product, right, and the evidence doesn't show that more people are converting over to streaming services, if that doesn't show by the end of next gen or halfway into the gen, because Sony's going to, when PlayStation 5 launches, Sony will already, and same thing with Microsoft, they will already start talking about the next console. The moment the new console launches, the moment PlayStation 5 is out, the moment Scarlet is out, they're already on the drawing board for the new next generation console. They're already talking about it, right? Part of that conversation, though, is they're going to see how the streaming services adoption rate plays out, right? For Sony or even Microsoft to decide that they're not going to release a console during that gen, you know, no PlayStation 6, no next generation Xbox after Scarlet, they have to see a trend where console hardware are drastically being bought less and being replaced with streaming services, you know, game streaming services like xCloud and PlayStation Now. If they see a trend that more and more people want PlayStation Now and less hardware, then they will bite the bullet, right? If they don't see the pulse of the gamers, where gamers don't look at PlayStation Now as an alternative to PlayStation 5, then there's going to be a PlayStation 6. Because the gamers are attracted to the dedicated hardware and not so much the streaming services. Does that make sense? So that's what Sony and Microsoft are going to be looking at. You know? If the consoles are still in demand and Sony's like, holy shit, we're selling 20 million, 25 million consoles a year. We already broke 100 million in 5 years again, or in 4 years. We're on our way to 120, 130 million. This is what gamers want. And they don't see PlayStation Now numbers. Same thing with Microsoft. If they see Xbox console hardware sales do better this gen, right? Let's say it sells 60, 70 million, right? And Xbox cloud numbers are doing decent, but they're now off the charts. Well, Microsoft's going to make another console because that's what is being bought. That's what they see as the trend. So right now, I don't think anybody can honestly give you an honest answer to that. A lot of data, and they have to see how things are going. Let's see. Rock. This is from Vengeance. Also, if Game Pass is successful, how you do the math? Does that mean game developing is actually cheaper? That's a nut I can't crack right now. All right. Let's use PlayStation Now, for example. Let's pretend Sony did day one games last year, right? They put their games day one on PS Now. And you can sign up for PlayStation Now. You can get a whole year of PlayStation Now for $60. So let's say you did that last year. In 2018, in January, you bought PlayStation Now for $60. So you gave Sony a one-time payment of $60, which includes online multiplayer, so you don't even have to pay for PSN Plus. So you don't have the PSN Plus fee. You pay $60, you got a whole year of PS Now. Now, within that whole year, you play God of War, which the game on its own is $60. Then you play Detroit, which the game on its own is $60. Then you decide to play MLB The Show. The game on its own is $60. Then you played Spider-Man. The game on its own is $60. That's $240 that you didn't give Sony, but you gave them $60. And it doesn't end there, because there's even more games that you're going to play that you don't pay for. So for Sony getting $60 for the whole year from you, you could potentially have played $300 to $400 worth of games, right? right? And I'm not arguing that that's not great for the computer, for the consumer. I'm not arguing that that's bullshit. Sony needs to make that money, dog. Fuck the consumer. I'm not doing that, right? I understand that is outstanding. I'm Mr. Cheapsteak. Cheapsteak. I'm Mr. Cheapsteak. I'm Mr. Cheap Skate, right? I'm hungry. So from a consumer perspective, hell yeah, you pay $60 and you just played a whole bunch of amazing games and saved yourself $200, $300, $400, right? But these board members and execs from Sony, they don't make decisions simply because it's consumer friendly. They make decisions that benefits themselves to make more money. So I don't know how to crack that nut of you get $60, but you gave up $300. So how are you going to make money again? I haven't cracked that nut yet. So we just have to play it out and wait and see how Microsoft makes, or how Game Pass will be a successful system for Microsoft. Because the numbers don't add up. Because take, for example, Gears of War, right? People played it for $2. And some people upgraded their Xbox Live Gold and current Game Pass subscription for $2 or $1 to convert it to Ultimate. And now for some of them, up to 3 years, up to like 36 months, they not paying anything for the next 36 months. They're not paying annual Xbox Live Gold fees for 3 years. They're not paying Game Pass monthly subscription fees for 3 years. They're not paying anything. And they're going to get all these games. The games that Microsoft's releasing as a first party over the next 3 years, they have access to them. They got access to Halo. They got access to the guys who made, oh my God, Playground games. They got access to Playground's next game. The next game Ninja Theory is making, they got access to that. They're not paying that. But let's say if those 3 games are $60 each, that's $180. And they're not paying that. I don't know how Sony... Microsoft, that's on Microsoft. I just can't crack that nut. I don't know. It's crazy. Let's see what we got else. So somebody said USS9 saying I should get a 4K projector. I have a small room, so I'm cool with a 50-inch TV. Is there a reason why? Is there an advantage over a projector? How's the latency? Stuff like that. And then where would I put it? Like, how does it, do I need to get a screen? Can I put it on the wall? Does it look good on the wall? Do I need a certain type of screen? You know, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to get into the whole projector. I just get a TV. It's simple. Let's see. Let's see what else. What's going on? So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I'll keep it simple with a TV. It's for the man cave. Sorry, the chat like scrolled past real fast, so I'm trying to find my alignment of where I was at. Let's see, where was I at? Damn, that chat. Holy shit, the chat zoomed by. Apologize, I'm trying to catch up. Let's go. Do you think PS5 will have Cortana? Okay, I see that question. No, I ain't gonna have no Cortana. I mean, it makes sense. Like, what would that be a thing? All right, okay, now I'm back. All right. What's your thought on the games and the controller potentially going up on price for 60 to 70? The controllers, I could see that going up, but that's not a big deal because unless you're one of those dudes that buys every controller, like if the controller is $80, right? You're gonna get one controller packed in, and then I buy one controller, and then that's it. Unless the controller breaks, most likely I won't buy another controller for the rest of the gen. I usually like this gen. I have 2 controllers. And that's it, right? So you're probably not gonna buy a controller. So I don't see that. The games is different though, because if a game's $70, that shit adds up, you know. It does adds up, right? And here's my thing with the industry. The industry needs to keep games at $60, right? And I know the industry wants going to say they want to make profit, is not enough. But the thing is, if they put the games at a price point of $70, more and more gamers are now going to be selective of the games they buy. And that's going to cause less game sales overall. That's just what's going to happen, right? I think now gamers have finally gotten used to the $60 price point. So now gamers will buy lots of games. You see more and more games selling higher, as long as they're quality. And gamers no longer have an issue with the $60 price point. You know, when PS3, 360 introduced the $60 price point, gamers were very selective with the games they buy. Now, after so many years, we're used to it. If they introduce a $70 game, we're going to go back to, well, they're going to be selective. They're going to be like, I'm going to wait for a price drop because I don't want to spend $70 on that. That $10 difference adds up over time as you buy games. You understand what I'm saying? What else we got? Okay, yeah, no, it's not going to have Cortana. Are they still making adult video games besides in Japan? I have no idea. Fucking deep, man. You always bring up the question. I'm not in Japan right now, and I don't look for adult video games. I know PC has a lot of that, but I just don't. I don't know. I just stick to classic, porn channels, and that's it. Somebody put CPU more important for VR. High frame rates essential for VR. So if that's true, let's say, thank you so much, Eddie T, for that comment. If the CPU is more important for VR than the GPU, then expect Sony to give a little bit of more care to the CPU than the GPU because, just a little bit, not dramatic, but that might be the difference between Scarlett and PlayStation, where PlayStation CPU is a little bit more powerful than the Xbox CPU, just a little bit, to accommodate VR for PlayStation, while Microsoft focused more on the GPU. And it's a little bit more powerful than the PlayStation one. It could be those sort of differences, but I don't want it as me coming off, this is what's going to happen. That's just an assumption, a guess, and a thought process. Saltiest Gaming saying both are important for VR. But Saltiest, while I would imagine, overall, the RAM and the architecture, all of it's important. But in your opinion, if you were to pick one component between the CPU and the GPU that has a little bit more importance for the VR experience, would you be able to pick one, or do you feel there is no difference? They are both equally stand on the same footing. Let me know what you think, Saltiest Gaming. If you were able, if somebody said, no, you have to pick one component, what would be that component? Let's see. What's going on? And to be honest, I noticed people talking about Horizon Zero Dawn. There could be a point where Horizon Zero Dawn might not be the next game coming out of Guerrilla. It could be, because supposedly they split teams, could be the next Killzone or new shooter IP. There's a chance that it could be a new shooter IP to get the multiplayer crowd going, because they have to provide a little bit of balance. So you might see that. Only Dallas, what's your thoughts on upping the price for the controlling game at $70? All right, I talked about that, so I think I caught up to the thread. Some PS4 games might not work on the PS5 via BC. So here's the thing. It's going to be interesting if that's the case, because a long time ago I said PlayStation 5 is going to have PlayStation 4 backwards compatibility because they went with x86 architecture. It's no different than PC. That's why PC has backwards compatibility going back 20 years because of x86. They're still working on the same architecture. So it's really no different. So I think unless there's something weird, I don't see why a PS4 game or some PS4 games won't work, because at the end of the day, it's all x86 architecture. Unless there's something unique to the programming, which I don't think so, but I think by right of x86, it's all accessible to the console. Let's see what else we got. Rock, where did you get the info about Cortana being the PS5 assistant? I didn't get that. That's not me. I didn't say that. If I said Cortana, then it was probably an accident. I probably used the name Cortana as Siri. Remember, because I also said Siri and I also saw the Alexa. So if I said it, if I use the word Cortana, I'm just using it as an example. All right? But I am not saying Cortana is the assistant for PlayStation 5. All right? So maybe I've screwed up me talking. I apologize if I did. I was just naming other voice assistants that are similar in nature, like Alexa for my Fire TV, Siri for my iPhone. I was just using an example of voice assistants. The PlayStation article talked about voice assistant being part of PlayStation 5. So if I mumbled words or I said something confusing, then let me clear that up. I in no way am saying Cortana is the voice assistant for PlayStation 5. All right? All right. I am worried about cooling the PS5. Xbox already showed there's a new vapor cooling tech that they can cool their hardware down. That's a good concern. I would say that's a good concern, Saltiest Gaming. I would say Sony should do what they do best. Copy. Xbox vapor cooling tech is great tech. Just copy the shit. Unless Microsoft has a patent on it, then create your own version of vapor cooling. But if it's not a patent to where it's exclusive to Microsoft technology, let's say Microsoft adopted a vapor cooling technology that can be adopted by anybody, just copy the sucker. Use the same tech. Right? Let's see. Let's see. I hate the fact that my PlayStation sounds like a damn rocket ship. You could swear it's about an F-16 about to take off. Let's see. Puertorock, what do you think about folks who won't buy a PS5 over Scarlet? You mean they're going to choose Scarlet? That's their own preference. I mean, there's a lot of, let's be honest, all right? Because, this channel, I keep it real. Like, if you would ask me that question on Twitter, I would have came up with some, jokes and snaps. But on this channel, there's people who like the Xbox environment. There's people who paid a lot of money on their software. There's games that they bought, huge backlog of games that they still haven't played. They want their games to transition over, right? They already have an ecosystem where they have multiple Xboxes in their homes, their kids, their spouse, whatever. They all share games. It's a cheap method to play games among the family. They love Game Pass, low monthly costs, and their kids get to play a lot of games. They get to play a lot of games. There's a lot of reasons to buy an Xbox over a PlayStation 5 if you have a particular taste and particular reasons. Okay? They may not be my reasons on why I would choose a console, but my reason is not the default standard that everybody has to adhere to. Our reasons of why we choose a console over another is not a default stance that everybody must obey and adhere to. Each of us make our own money. Each of us buy our own products. We decide on our own terms why we choose the product that we have. And there will be people that will choose Xbox Scarlet because they have specific reasons that PlayStation 5 will not meet. And that's pretty much, and there's nothing wrong with that. From just a gamer talking about games, enjoying games. Of course on Twitter, I'm going to antagonize the Xbox fanboys and talk my shit, but that's how I am on Twitter. I'm just a shit talker, a trash talker, right? Let's see what else. He says, I better not see 130 FPS game next gen. You might have a small few. What about Ape Escape, Metal Gear Solid, or what about SOCOM? I don't know anything about Ape Escape. I know my man Blandrew, he's dying for an Ape Escape. Metal Gear belongs to Konami, so if they do a full-blown remake, it'll probably be multiplat. SOCOM, I would love Guerrilla to take that project on. Like, if they're going to make a new multiplayer IP, bring back the title that PlayStation gamers really want. I think that, a lot of PlayStation gamers don't really talk about multiplayer games. But if there's one game we do talk about that is multiplayer centric and that everybody wants, is the return of SOCOM. Star Citizen on PS5 is possible. It's going to have great hardware. Let's see. AK 120 FPS. All games are no buy. 16K 240 FPS or no buy. Oh shit. 24K 360. That shit. Go Red Sox. See you next year. We'll worry about Red Sox next year. PES is bigger than FIFA. Well, I know they have that Pro Evolution Konami. I thought that game fell off because I don't see it much. Is it still bigger than FIFA? Because I see a lot of FIFA esports tournaments. But I would imagine you guys know better than I am. I don't know shit about soccer. Maybe bad assumption. Let's see. Should the next Xbox be called Xbox 4? Is Xbox 4th gen console, and 4 is Roman numeral for 4. Also 4 intravenous because Xbox is on life support. I did not expect that last part. Intravenous because Xbox Life. So they're not going to name numbers because marketing-wise, PlayStation 5 sounds more dominant than Xbox 4. So the moment... And this was something that they did with Xbox 2. They didn't want to name the console Xbox 2 versus the PlayStation 3 because it just sounds inferior, right? And I think that's why iPhone went away with their numbers because they don't really call their phone numbers anymore, right? It's like iPhone XR and all this weird shit. I don't know. But Microsoft is going to come up with a unique, catchy number, a unique, catchy name. And they're going to stick with that, right? And we'll see how that goes. I remember the PS9 commercial. That was like around the PlayStation 2 announcement. And it was like a big crystal ball. It was weird. I remember, EA did make... there was a lot of games. I think they still make hockey games, right? I'm not sure. And I remember tennis games used to be big back then. I remember I used to play tennis games back then. Now I don't anymore. I used to play hockey games too. Blades of Steel on Super Nintendo. If you're old enough, you remember that. It's weird how my taste changed. Because I remember every console, I always used to play all the sports games. Friends on the Block. I think maybe because sports games back then was like the multiplayer craze. Like we didn't have a lot of first-person shooters. And it wasn't online. So if we want the games to compete each other, it was the fighters and it was the sports games. I remember we used to play Dodgeball, the video game. Who remembers that Dodgeball game on Super Nintendo? Right? It was crazy because the Dodgeball players had superpowers. Yo, for real, they did. So it was a Dodgeball game on Super Nintendo, right? And you had like 3 players on each side, right? And you select your players, but each player had an ability, right? Like you would throw the dodgeball, right? And if they caught it, you were out or if you got hit. But the dodgeballs had superpower. Like one was like a dodgeball. When you threw it, it was real slow. So when you threw it, it was like this. And the ball would just be like this, right? Towards the player, right? And the reason why it's going slow is because the player would have to stand there and time it. And if you time the catch wrong, it will blow your character out across the screen. Now, it wasn't one hit and you lose. The players have energy levels. So you had to keep hitting them to knock them out. Does that make sense? So it wasn't like, the way a real game of dodgeball is. If the person gets hit, he's out. No. It was 3 players and each player had an energy bar and you would just keep hitting them until the energy depleted and they get knocked out. There was one dude who would throw the ball super fast. There was another one that would throw it and the ball looked like a frisbee. There was another power where you would throw the ball and the ball will go out the screen. Right? It would like let's say you throw it, right? And it will go out the screen and they will come back and hit you in the back. So you had to time it and jump away. It was crazy. Am I bugging out? I remember playing that. So I used to play all types of shit. Double dribble, Blades of Steel. We would play hockey. Like a Puerto Rican from New York playing hockey. Like really? We would play soccer, tennis. We would get down on all types of multiplayer sports. Now, there's a lot of sports I don't mess with. But I remember Dodgeball. That shit was crazy. Hassan said, I was an Xbox gamer. I had original Xbox 360, but I don't care anymore about Xbox anymore and about Halo Gears. You're not the only one. There's some people that don't like PlayStation ever since they started pushing like God of Wars and The Last of Us and Uncharted. They like the old PlayStation 1. Like where the best games and the biggest blockbuster games were Japanese games. You know, they like that PlayStation. And then when PlayStation 3, when it started changing more into the Uncharted, Infamous, Last of Us, God of War type console, some people didn't like PlayStation and they left, right? At the end of the day, whatever's your platform, the number one concern is that platform providing the games you want to play? And there is no wrong answer because nobody's involved in your gaming purchase. You are buying your own gaming console, so the only opinion that matters is you. Because at the end of the day, you're going to be stuck with your own decision. No one is going to be there with you with that decision, right? So, great question, great comment. Let me scan through a little bit more because I'm about to see if Zaire does his thing. For me, Puertorock77, what is the reason to upgrade off the bat? So I'm not going to say what is the reason. Great question. I'm going to say what's my reason. Reason number one, I am looking forward to the technology beyond just the simple power. I'm looking to see how games with the SSD render at almost instantaneous speed. I'm looking forward to how this 3D audio that they mentioned a while ago is going to bring level immersion to games. I want to see right off the bat the controller and how haptic feedback and resistant triggers provide a new layer of immersion of games, okay? That's my reason to jump day one. It's not just simply better graphics for me, right? Because if it was just better graphics and these companies didn't mention anything, they only hyped, was going to be 4K, maybe the 60 frames would make me jump, whatever. But if it was just more graphics boost and that's it, I wouldn't be as hyped. I would be like, cool, we're going to get some better looking games. But it's these features, it's these unique things that this current gen does not have in any shape or form that I'm excited about. I'm excited about the solid state drives. I'm excited about the controller and what it's going to do. I'm excited about 3D audio. I want to know and feel and experience these unique capabilities that will make gaming amazing. You understand what I'm saying? And I can't wait to see how third party and Sony implement this stuff. So that's my reason to upgrade off the bat. Because you're going to get something more than just graphics. You're going to get immersion and experience that you cannot get even with the Xbox One X. Xbox One X, you know, for power, great console, great graphics, whatever. I mean, it is what it is, right? But none of these mid-gen refresh consoles going to deliver, not even a high-end PC, right? Until they make the controller specifically designed for PC, is going to bring this stuff, that consoles, these unique experiences. Unless PC already has a controller that does all that and they already make games, I'm not sure. If PC already has it, then it just shows why you guys are PC master race, if you already have this. But if you don't, these are unique things that's going to add to the immersion of gaming, and it's going to be phenomenal. So that's my thing of that. Watch Sony have 3 consoles. Watch Sony have 3 consoles that sold 100. They already do. PlayStation 1 sold 100 million. PlayStation 2 sold 150 million. And PlayStation 4 has been confirmed to sold over 100 million. So they already have 3 consoles. You know, PlayStation 3 sadly sold 80 million, which is not bad in of itself. But given the far departure of PlayStation 2, some people see that as a subpar thing, right? And I think we're gonna kick it on that. I didn't see no super chat to read. Oh, they started a podcast? Okay. So with that, hey, thank you so much for rocking out with your boy. I know Z's going on. Thank you so much for rocking out. I hope this, we were here for almost 2 hours or whatever. I hope it was well worth it and you guys enjoyed it. This is your boy Puertorock77. Hey, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hook me up with a like button. And don't forget to retweet on and let people know that this was a good live stream. All right. I hope I was able to enjoy your questions. Again, tune in Friday. Like, subscribe. It's your boy Puertorock77. And I am Ghost. My friends, my family, my fellow gamers. And of course, I'm your only friend in these YouTube streets. Peace. And I'm going to end the stream right now.